Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crowd Share Podcast. Today, we are doing some more college football. We love our college football here, and we're doing some more picks today. We got week, I believe this is seven. Week seven picks, right? Week eight. I'm sorry, week eight picks. And this is another good one. We've had some really good weeks of college football. We got another really good one coming for you, and we got another banger of a game of a week game coming up here. It's gonna be a fantastic one. Gonna be one to see. Well, let's get started with our shockers. Of course, you all know how this goes. If you don't by now, whoops. If you don't by now, then I'll just give you the spiel. If you guys have not seen College Game Day, that's kind of similar to what we do here. Our shockers of the week are our version of their super dogs. A little bit different as we just pick simply a team to get an upset. If we get it right, we get the points of that spread. If we don't, we get nothing. They do stuff where you can pick someone to cover the line. That's obviously a lot easier, but we go a bit harder and simply just pick for teams to get upsets. Has not happened for Sterbensky, as you can clearly tell. I've had two this year, but yeah, Sam's running away with it right now. So we need some points, and I'm going with a safe pick. I thought about getting a big one, but I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna go safe. I'm gonna go with one I actually believe will happen, and get some more points on the board, and then maybe I can make up a little bit of some ground before I try and go big. And I'm taking Utah over USC for my shocker. USC's I believe right now they were a 7 point favorite, but now I think it dropped to 6.5. But USC, that Notre Dame game really shed a light on USC for me because I didn't really know they had some bad weeks. They had been bad against Arizona State, but they ended up winning by 15 because Arizona State's pretty darn bad. Then they nearly blew a game against Colorado. They ended up winning by 7, but they made it a little bit closer than you thought. At that point, I still thought Colorado was at least a decent team. I don't really know if they are anymore, but I figured Colorado was at least still a decent team. So not too out of the ordinary, but for a team like USC, a little concerning. Then they nearly blew a game against Arizona at home, and that was like, okay, this is really going south. If they're not in this Notre Dame game, I don't think is going to go well. But I figured, it would be a close game that USC would end up falling just short, and then they would rebound immediately thereafter. But after seeing Notre Dame just absolutely obliterate them, I don't know about USC anymore. Utah is a similar team to Notre Dame, and honestly, their offense might be better than Notre Dame's, and they still don't have Cam Rising. And no one has any idea if the guy's even going to play this year. But Utah's a similar team, and USC got bombed by that team. Utah could easily, I mean, I don't think they're going to blow them out, but Utah could end up beating them too. And I'm very confident in that one. I'm not. I don't trust USC anymore. Not after that Notre Dame game. So give me Utah. Give me Utah for sure. And then Serbensky, he's been scuffling for quite a few weeks now. He's been trying to find some way to get on the board, but he's also recognizing he's falling a little behind. So he's going to go for some big points. And after Stanford's shocking comeback a week ago, he's going to go with the Stanford Cardinal to get the upset over UCLA. UCLA is, I think, like a 17-point favorite in this game. So obviously, if Serbensky ended up converting, it would be a huge one for Sterbensky, as he'd get automatically just 17 points. I remember I did that like twice last year, and that was like the only two I got, or something like that. Or was it 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago that we did this, and USC was playing Stanford. I picked Stanford. Stanford got a 17-pointer. And I think I did the same thing with Florida State and North Carolina, and that was a 17-pointer. So I made out like a bandit on those two. I haven't done that really this year. As of right now, I don't have Sam's picks. He'll get those into me later, and I'll fill those in then, but I don't have them at the moment. So sorry about that. So let's get started with our picks this week. And first we have, you guys can assume who we're taking, but Michigan State, or I'm sorry, Michigan on the road, number 2 in the land, taking on Michigan State. It's an in-state rivalry game, which is really the only reason I put it on here, because in all likelihood, I'm sure everybody would agree with me that we should beat Michigan State. The only problem is it's an in-state rivalry game where absolutely everybody. Michigan State is going to play their absolute heart out, and almost every year this game tends to be closer than you would expect. And Michigan State almost always makes it very competitive, no matter how good or how bad they are. And same way goes for Michigan. No matter how good or how bad they are, they seem to make it close. So it's always a heated rivalry. It always tends to be a very close game, uncomfortably so. But in all likelihood, Michigan should end up absolutely, hopefully, blowing them out. But I highly doubt that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be another close game, of which Michigan's going to end up winning a nail biter. So let's hope it doesn't get too scary. Um, Obviously, Calvin is the Michigan State fan here, but he's not on here. I don't even know what he would end up taking. He probably would end up taking Michigan, but I'll just take Michigan State for him, just because he's a Spartan fan. I'm sure he would end up taking Michigan, but I'll take Sparty for him. Why not? He hasn't been. He's been busy with college, I know, but I'll give him Michigan State just for the heck of it. Next we have South Carolina going on the road to take on Missouri. Missouri is a solid team. I think this is going to be a competitive game, but give me the home team. I'm taking Missouri to win this one. I think it's going to be very fun, and it should be very close. Spencer Rattler's a good QB, and he'll make things interesting just because of the player that he is. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a Missouri win. Should be fun, and should be close though for sure. Serbenski's pick is going to be the Missouri Tigers. He has Missouri covering, defending home field. And Sam, as I said, I don't have his picks right now, so it'll just be me and Serbensky for this one. Next, we have UCLA going on the road to take on Stanford. Now, Serbenski picked this as his shocker. He's not taking UCLA. He's not taking Stanford as his actual pick, and neither am I. I'm taking UCLA. Stanford, the Colorado game was a fluke. Okay, Colorado just might actually be bad. Not that Stanford's any good, or Colorado. I don't know. Colorado is a really weird team. You would think they'd be better than blowing a 29-0 lead at halftime to Stanford, who's not even a good team. But here we are. I don't know, but Stanford, UCLA actually has a pretty solid defense. And while their quarterback has made a lot of mistakes, Dante Moore does look like he is a very talented player. Obviously, he's a true freshman now, so he's having some growing pains at the moment. But he looks like an absolutely outstanding player. Next, we have UCF going on the road to take on Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel being reunited with his old team of UCF, and it shall go well. I'll take Oklahoma to win this one. UCF is a decent team, but Oklahoma really showed to the country how good they are when they beat Texas. That game shed some light on the true talent of the Oklahoma Sooners. I did not realize that Oklahoma was that good. I thought they were at least good, but that game showed that they were great. So I am very high on the Sooners now after that game. They look absolutely outstanding. So give me Oklahoma, and that is the same pick for Serbinsky. Next is Wisconsin going on the road to take on Illinois. Illinois is a weird team because you think they're really bad, and you kind of count them out, and you start to count them out, and you start to not trust them, and then all of a sudden they end up looking absolutely outstanding again, and then you know you think they're a terrible team, you count them out, and you decide to forget about them, and then they make you remember again when they go ahead and they beat a team like Maryland. So Maryland, Illinois makes no sense. They shouldn't be a good team. They're not really that good of a team, but somehow, even after losing to Nebraska the previous week, they end up beating Maryland on the road. So I really don't know what to think of Illinois whatsoever. But Wisconsin, I know, is going to probably be missing Tanner Mordecai, as he has a broken hand. So the starting QB, I believe, is going to be Braden Locke is going to be the starting QB for him. He's a Mississippi State transfer. He wasn't special against Iowa, but I don't really know what to really think of these two, but Illinois is pretty abysmal. So I mean, I'll go with Wisconsin just because of Braylon Allen. That's a really good player, and that alone might be able to carry Wisconsin to the win because Illinois' defense I thought would be better, and it hasn't been. So give me Wisconsin to win this one. I'm not really confident in either team, but Wisconsin to me. I mean, like I said, I don't really like Illinois' team either. Or I'm sorry, I don't really like Wisconsin's team either. But Illinois, they're not really that good either. So give me Wisconsin. It should be interesting now. Serbinsky is actually taking Illinois. So we'll see how that goes. But he's got the fight in the Illini. And then next we have Northwestern going on the road to take on Nebraska. Both these teams are pretty bad, but Northwestern is a whole nother world of bad. So give me Nebraska. Nebraska was the only team that actually gave Northwestern a win last year, but Nebraska to me is just a significantly better team. Does anyone know how in the world Nebraska ended up getting to 3-3? Like, who did they beat? I mean, 3-3 just doesn't seem normal. Like, how did they get there? I mean, seriously, who did they even end up beating? I mean, I know they beat Illinois, but LA Tech and Northern Illinois. Wow, they almost beat Minnesota too. Huh, okay, but yeah, give me Nebraska to win this one, and that's also going to be the same pick for Serbinsky. He has Nebraska Cornhuskers taking down Northwestern. Next, we have Mississippi State going on the road to take on Arkansas. A really rough start for the Razorbacks. They have had it incredibly rough this season. A lot of losses, and they just haven't really seemed to really get their feet under them. I mean, they're 2-5 to start this season, and they've just been taking some really tough L's. None of them have really been blowouts either. I mean, most of them have been pretty close. Their only loss that was really not even that competitive was Texas A&M. Every other game that they've lost has been one possession. I mean, they've lost by literally a touchdown 2 times, and they lost by a field goal another 2 times. So they've been right there in almost every game, but they just never seem to be able to actually pull through. Um, in Mississippi State, they're a team that just overall hasn't really done all that much. I mean, they've beaten some meh teams, and then they've lost to the good ones. So Arkansas, I say, will finally actually pull through and actually win a football game. I think they actually will pull through and finally finish one, and they get the win at home and they take down the Mississippi State Bulldogs and get to 3-5, which sounds kind of weird because Arkansas you would think would be better, but they're not. That is actually, I think, the same pick for Sermensky. Yes, it is. He has Arkansas taking down Mississippi State and getting the win. All right, next we have the Texas Longhorns going on the road to take on the Houston Cougars. Houston's not that great of a team, but this is a road game, and this is Houston's first chance, or first and only chance probably, to face and take down the Texas Longhorns. Unfortunately, it won't happen. Texas is a very good team. Texas is absolutely unbelievably talented. And they may have lost to Oklahoma, but like I said, I'm very high in Oklahoma now after that game. Um, but Houston's not special, so give me Texas to win this one. And that's also going to be the same pick for Svenski. He's got the Texas Longhorns going to win over the Houston Cougars. Next, we have Ole Miss, number 13 in the land, going on the road to take on the Auburn Tigers. This will be an interesting game. Auburn's offense is not really that special. And then the defense is just kind of eh. Their entire team really is just kind of eh. And then for Ole Miss, their defense never seems to be any good, but their offense always tends to be pretty solid. I think this will be a very fun game, a very close one. Probably closer than many people expect, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a win for Ole Miss. Auburn's team just really doesn't have that much to go for it. Their defense is okay, but their offense really just is not very special. And they're, like I said, they're an okay team, but when you're playing teams like Ole Miss and I don't know about Ole Miss. When you're playing teams at, well, yeah, sure, Ole Miss. When they're playing teams like Ole Miss who have a solid offense, or teams like Alabama, or really that's the top dogs of the SEC, you need more than just average or below average. Below average is really bad, but you know that's kind of where Auburn is. They're just kind of average. Now, if you put that team in the Big Ten West, they might end up being undefeated, but they're not in the Big Ten West. They're in the SEC West. So it's just rough for Auburn because they don't really get any easy games. But this is another not easy game, but it is home, so you'd think maybe they have a chance at an upset, and I think there is an upset chance here. But I'll go with Ole Miss, and I'll go with the safe pick. And Serbenski is also going with the safe pick. Next, we have Texas Tech going on the road to take on BYU. BYU has burned me several times this year. Whether I pick them or whether I don't pick them, they always seem to do the opposite. So, don't really know what to do with this one, but BYU tends to be a pretty good home team, and Texas Tech just is not that special. So, I'll go with BYU to defend home field, and they get the win at home in a game against Texas Tech. Serbenski is going with Texas Tech on the road. That might be just because he's not a BYU guy. I don't know if he is or not, but Texas Tech is actually his pick. Next, we have Minnesota on the road taking on Iowa. This is a decently big rivalry. These two are not really big fans of each other, obviously. As I said during my top 25 video, Iowa has lost pretty much all of its offense. No Luke Lachey, no Eric All, and no Cade McNamara. All and McNamara both have torn their ACL. I don't really know what Lachey's injury is, but it says that he's out for the year as well. So all those guys are out. And that's like the heart and soul of Iowa's offense. That's like the biggest parts of their offense, and they're all gone. So And they're ranked 24 still. And they got ranked at 24, which is even the more wild part to me. But Iowa at home for this game. Minnesota at 3-3. They're a defensive team, obviously. Minnesota, not really very special on the offensive end. The problem for Minnesota. They would be a better team if they had any of their running backs from a season ago. If they had anybody from last year who was even remotely decent, they probably would still be a solid team. They'd probably be 4-2 or hey, maybe even 5-1. You don't know. I mean, I'm sure they would certainly beat. No, they'd probably be 4-2 because they had certainly beat Northwestern with one of their running backs. Yeah, they lost to Northwestern. I don't ask me how because I don't know. Um, but Minnesota is they're really a team that is defensively oriented, and their defense is really the big part of their team. Uh, I mean, if you really were to look, let me look at the team statistics. Does it have like points against on here? I'm sure it probably does. I mean, their offense is obviously the biggest, problem for them. I probably have to go to, but Minnesota. They're like I said, they're a defensive team. Most of their games are kind of like Iowa's. They're lower scoring. So if you're someone who hates watching abysmal offenses play each other, then this is not the game for you because that is exactly what these teams are. They are abysmal on offense. Because neither one of them are really all that special or all that good on defense. Or I'm sorry, on offense. As you were to look, Minnesota, I'd probably have to go to Big Ten. Minnesota and points against. Oh wow, they're actually at 26. Wow. Okay, I thought that was. Oh, it's probably because of Michigan. That's why, because they played the stinking Wolverines, and that probably shot it up tremendously. Yeah, I mean, no, they're off. I don't know. But Minnesota, this is a team that I could really. Iowa, I don't really. Neither of these teams are any good. That's the point I'm trying to get to in a really roundabout way. But Iowa's missing a lot of its offensive production. Minnesota still has some of it. This is a tough one, but I'm gonna go with an upset. And Iowa does not lose at home very often, but Minnesota is a big rival. And Minnesota is getting pretty desperate now. They're at 3-3. They have two conference losses to Northwestern and Michigan. Of course, their other loss is North Carolina. But Minnesota is an interesting team, and they're like I said, they're desperate for a win. They really need one. And with Iowa hurting right now, I think Minnesota is going to surprise some people and they get the win in a defensive battle. That's what Iowa games are going to have to be. But Minnesota's defense is tough. They're not going to just let you walk all over them. They were tough last year. They've been a little bit sloppier this season, but with Iowa's offense, with them getting to face Iowa's offense, Iowa's going to make them look like the best defense in the league or in the country. So expect a really ugly game that Minnesota wins really close. Serbenski's going safe. Serbenski is taking Iowa, and that is fair. I don't blame him for that. I'm going more aggressive and taking Minnesota. Um, well, maybe stupidly aggressive and taking Minnesota in some people's minds, but I'm going with the Gophers in a surprising upset. Next, we have Washington State going on the road to take on Oregon. Washington State just got absolutely pummeled at home by the hands of Arizona. I did not think that I thought Arizona had a chance of winning. I didn't think they would just absolutely annihilate them. And that's exactly what they did. And yeah, well, Oregon's going to be playing mad. They just took a loss last week at the hands of their arch rival. Washington State's coming off an ugly loss. This doesn't really bode well for Washington State, especially going into Oregon. Give me the Ducks again. And maybe this is not my popular opinion. I got the Ducks absolutely wiping out Washington State, and the Cougars getting absolutely destroyed again. That is the same pick for Srbensky. I don't know if he has them blowing them out, but I do. Next, we have Air Force going on the road to take on Navy. Air Force, a surprising top 25 ranking this week at number 22. They're undefeated on the year, but now they go on the road to take on Navy. These are always tough games to pick because they're the armed force, they're the armed forces, they're the armed force academies, and this game is going to end up being a matter of which team is stronger. It's not going to have anything to do with talent. It's going to be who's stronger, because just like I said, Air Force academies, all they do is run. Our armed force academies, all they do is run. It's like triple option, wide receiver reverses. That's what they're going to do all day long. This is going to be a matter of who's the strongest team. And if you watch one of those Army, there's like an Army clip out there somewhere of, they run right up the middle, and, you think the guy is stuffed, then they just start a pile, and, it goes out like another 20 yards before it's finally taken down. The clip was, and then like the caption was like most Army play ever or something, and it really is. But Air Force Navy, I mean, Air Force is undefeated and ranked, so sure. I would not be surprised if this was an upset. I really would not. But Air Force is a ranked team. I don't know. I'm just picking Air Force because I don't really know who to take here. Air Force is a ranked team, but it's an armed force game. It's gonna be fun in any case. But give me Air Force. Again, I don't really know who to take. And that is the same pick for Srbensky. I'm sure he's just thinking the same thing. That's like, I don't know. I'm going to take the ranked team. Next, we have TCU going on the road to take on Kansas State. Should be a fun game. TCU wants revenge for the loss in the Big 12 title. They will not get it. Kansas State, to me, they had a rough start. They lost to Missouri, who's a pretty good team, obviously. And then their other loss was Oklahoma State, which was a bit of a question mark, but I think Kansas State's still a solid team. TCU, I don't know about TCU. TCU is that's a team I don't really know much about. They lost a lot of the talent they had last year. Kansas State at least has something still, and it's a home game for K-State. I'll go with the Wildcats. Same pick for Srbensky. He actually does have Kansas State getting the win at home, defending home field, and taking down TCU. Next, we have Oklahoma State on the road taking on West Virginia. Surprising 4-2 record for both of these teams. Somebody is actually going to go to 5-2, which is rather surprising. But Oklahoma State, this is a team I really thought would be a borderline 1-5 by now, especially with one of their two losses being a 33-7 loss at home to South Alabama. 33-7, and they're 4-2. Just what? Just that to me makes absolutely no sense. West Virginia, they're at 4-2. I don't know. I think they beat Pitt. I think they beat Pitt, but they lost to. They ended up losing to who was it? Penn State at the beginning of the year. Obviously, Penn State is a pretty darn good team, so that's not really a surprise that they ended up losing that game. But as for really Oklahoma State, I don't know how in the world they're any good. Their other loss was, oh yeah, that's right. West Virginia's other loss was the Hail Mary throw by Houston that ended up beating them. If you've never seen that play, I'm obviously well behind still in getting out all the different plays of the week stuff. I'm still trying to catch up on that, but once I actually do catch up on that, that play will certainly be on there because that is absolutely absurd. Um, and then where's Oklahoma State? Their two losses, like I said, their one was South Alabama, getting absolutely destroyed. Then they also lost at Iowa State. So, it's really weird. And they also just beat Kansas last week in a bit of a surprising win, taking down Jalen Daniels and the Kansas Jayhawks, knocking them down to 5-2. So, this isn't a very evenly matched game. But Oklahoma State, I don't know if I can trust the Sooners, or not Sooners, Cowboys. I'll go with the home team. I'll take the Mountaineers because Oklahoma State's also one of those teams that just on the road just looks bad. I don't know why, but Oklahoma State, I got West Virginia taking the win. They go to 5-2. Should be a fun game though for sure. But I got West Virginia, and that is also going to be the same pick for Serbensky. He has West Virginia getting the win over Oklahoma State. Next, we have Clemson going on the road to take on Miami, Florida. It's so hard to trust either one of these teams, but I have more faith in Clemson than I do Miami, Florida. And that's partially because I don't trust the coaching staff anymore after their handling of Georgia Tech and of their Georgia Tech game, which they should have won, mind you, and they ended up losing because they were stupid. Um, and then, of course, they ended up losing last week to North Carolina, but that was expected. But Clemson also just needs a win. They need wins, and they are in desperate need of them still. If they want to get to the ACC title game, because they have two conference losses, and Duke is still currently ahead of them. And Duke's doesn't even have a conference loss yet. So Clemson is in desperate need of getting some wins to get back to the ACC title game, and this Miami Florida game is a huge one. So I think Clemson steps up to the occasion and they get the win. And Sorensen agrees with me because he also has Clemson winning this one. And next we have the Duke Blue Devils going on the road to take on the Florida State Seminoles. Look, Duke has had a nice start to the year, but it's going to come to a screeching halt because they're about to face the buzzsaw known as Florida State. Duke is a decent team. Florida State is very good, and Duke has had a nice start, but this is this is not a matchup for Duke. This is not a game that they want to have to deal with, especially at Doak Campbell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Duke, but it's not going to end up going so well. Give me Florida State to win this one, and Serbensky agrees with me on that note. He has Florida State also getting the better of the Duke Blue Devils. Next, we have Utah going on the road to take on USC. I picked this as my shocker. I'm picking this now as my actual selection. USC looks so bad against Notre Dame. Now, you could say that USC will come out in this game mad and will come out in this game, searching for answers and wanting to get back on track. But as I said when I was picking my shocker, Utah is a very similar style team to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame very much put out the blueprint of how to beat USC. And Utah very much has the capability of fulfilling that blueprint. I don't care if it's at the Coliseum. We already saw Arizona nearly beat USC at the Coliseum. Sure, that was before they faced Notre Dame. But my point is, USC is not untouchable at home. Utah could end up pulling. Utah has a good chance of pulling this win, and it would not shock me if they did because USC is they're in shambles right now, and they have a lot to work on before this game. And if they don't fix what happened in that Notre Dame game before they play Utah, it will not go well. So give me the Utes to win this one. Not the pick, though, for Serbensky. He actually has USC getting the win. It's ironic. Last year when it was Utah and USC, he would always pick Utah, but I was always pick USC. Now it's Utah USC again. He's picking Utah and he's picking USC and I'm picking Utah. So very funny to me. That's really ironic. But next we have Tennessee going on the road to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I This is a game that Alabama has to win games ugly. That's how they've been winning games this season, and if they want to keep winning games, that is going to be how they have to win them. They have to be ugly, you know, slugfests, because that's really the only way they've been able to win, because Jalen Milroe is not a quarterback who is going to carry you on his shoulders and win you the game. He's just not going to do that, so they really need to continue to, kind of slug their way through games. And as for Tennessee, this is a Tennessee team that doesn't really have much of what they did last year, but this is a Tennessee team that's still pretty good. And as much as I am really not at all a fan of Joe Milton, because dear Lord have mercy, when he was at Michigan, he was bad, and I mean bad. But Joe Milton at Tennessee has done himself well. He's been a solid player for him. He does have he has thrown one bad pick, I know for sure, because that pick was pretty terrifying when you saw it. But Joe Milton, he's a fine QB, and Tennessee has been up and down this year. They've had some really good weeks. They've had some really bad weeks. Their only loss is still at Florida, of which they seem to be cursed because they haven't won there since like 2000. But Tennessee has been very good defensively as well. They've been shutting none of their opponents have gotten over 30 points, and most of them have been like low 20s to high teens mostly. But it's probably like right about in the 20s. So Tennessee's defense has been solid against some solid offenses, and Alabama has proved that their offense sucks. And they lost to Texas at home. And I really hate doing this because I don't like Tennessee at all, and I've never liked them. But I also don't like Bama's team whatsoever. And it's sooner rather than later they're going to lose to somebody. They're not gonna they can't keep they're not gonna keep winning games the way that they are. One of these games they're going to end up losing, and their strategy of winning slugfest is not gonna keep up. And I think it'll be this Tennessee game. I like Joe Milton. He's As much as I don't like him, he's been decent this year for some reason. And so Bama's defense is obviously the strength of their team, but their offense certainly is not. So this is a game that it could play into the hands of Alabama and ends up being a slugfest again. But Tennessee, and obviously Bama's looking for revenge for last year. But obviously Bama, I don't trust the Tide. I don't really trust the Volunteers either. But I have a little bit more faith in the Volunteers than I do the Tide. Szymanski's going with the Tide. He's going safe, and I understand that. And then I said when this video began that there was a huge game this week that is one you don't want to miss. Yeah, this is the game I'm talking about. This is the first of the absolutely monumental Big Ten football games in the triangle of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. This is round one. Round two is going to be Michigan, Penn State. Round three is going to be Michigan, Ohio State. This is round one of the triangle, and it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be at the Horseshoe. Penn State has got a very good team. Ohio State's got a pretty darn good team, too. So this is going to be absolute war. Ohio State is missing though a lot of their players right now. They're losing. They're missing a lot of their running backs from a season ago. As they had just a lot of problems. Uh, because they were missing. I believe it was Emeka Buka last week. They also are missing their top two running backs, and then their number three running back also got hurt. So you know, there's a lot of injuries for them right now, and they need those guys to get healthy, and no one really knows. I don't really know if they're coming back for that game or not. Uh, but we'll see who is going to be coming back. Um, yeah, I'd have to. You'd have to look throughout the week. I don't really see who is going to be playing for that game right now, but they're missing. They're gonna be. There's a good chance they're missing a lot of them. Even with them, though, it's gonna be tough for Ohio State because I watched this Penn State team. Listen to me. Listen to me. This is not. This is not the pro Michigan of me coming out. This is not pro Michigan of me coming out. I sincerely believe that Penn State is the team to beat in the Big Ten East. That's not Michigan. Even so, they could end up being the team to beat in the Big Ten East. They're that good. You know, you look at the offense. You got a fantastic QB in Drew Aller, who's a outstanding player. You have running backs who are utterly, unbelievably talented. You have a good receiver in Keandre Lambert Smith. You got other guy. You have some other solid receivers in there. Obviously, Lambert Smith is the big name in the receiving core. You have arguably one of the best offensive lines in the country with some utterly fantastic NFL prospects on that offensive line. And then you have one of the best defenses in the country. I mean, you tell me. Does that not sound like one of the best teams in the country? With all those names in Ohio State, yeah, sure, their defense has been pretty solid too, obviously. And they have, obviously, by far, the best receiver in the entire country. No one is going to ever be better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, the stuff that guy does is unreal. But in the running back room, if it's healthy, is pretty darn good too. And Emeka Nabuka is really good too, if he's healthy. But that's the thing. A lot of those guys are hurt, so you don't know how much they're going to play. They also have Stover, who's pretty good. Like I said, this is going to be a phenomenal game. But I've been picking a lot of Road Warriors, and I'm picking another one. Look, I really sincerely believe in Penn State. And I don't want to sound like I don't really want to sound like I don't want them to sound like Texas, where they're saying, "Oh, it's their year." But you know, this Penn State team is unbelievable, and it's gonna be close. And I could see Ohio State still end up beating them anyway. But this Penn State team's for real. And even if they were to lose this game, they're still for real. And so is Ohio State. Ohio State's a solid team, but I think Ohio State's had some questionable games this year. I think Penn State is gonna show out in the horseshoe, and they're gonna get a huge win on the road. That is not the same case for Serbinsky. He actually has Ohio State defending home field and getting the win at home. I can see that. I definitely can see Ohio State doing that. But I believe in Penn State. I do. I think Penn State's gonna. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to take Nittany Lions, but I'm going with Penn State. I really like them this year. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, adios, everyone.